So I like Highguard. I think Highguard is a great hybrid mix of different modes that actually incorporate its own uniqueness inside of a PvP first-person shooter. And honestly, it's not more of a new genre, but it's an amalgamation of things that actually work together. I understand the online sentiment of Highguard is bad game this, lost players that, and I feel like if we keep doing this to games that just generally come out, and regardless if they're in the bad state or not, this is why we don't get unique experiences. And just because this game is pretty much the game award from the Game Awards trailer at the last trailer, I feel like a lot of people really has a just animosity towards this game just because it didn't live up to hype and expectations and what it got essentially. So I think Hardguard is a great game, and I can definitely see the vision of what they got going on with this game. And honestly, I feel really bad for the devs just because they kind of got tasked with a lot of things that kind of happened last minute. And I am completely aware of the performance issues and everything that's going on with the game. I just hope that the devs can kind of get that fixed. But I kind of want to make an in-depth overview of how I feel about Highguard and help people understand this game just to get a little bit of edge, you know what I'm saying? So you can actually have a better flow and understanding into this game. I'm going to be breaking this into 4 phases so that way it's a lot more easier to go through and manage, because I do think that this is a 4-phase game that you have to understand, especially if you want to be on par with some of the competition, because this is a competitive game. And I understand that 3v3 for a lot of people is off-putting. I do believe that there should be a team deathmatch mode, 5v5 bonus mode for people that just want to kind of enjoy the game on top of the fact of just learning the game. So yeah, I do think that that was pretty important, and not just having the 3v3 mode, but I do think the 3v3 mode is a good balance, and I'll explain why shortly, you know what I'm saying, as we talk about essentially all these phases and what goes on in the game. So without further ado, here's the overview. So phase 1 is going to be your defense setup phase. Now before we can even really talk about anything much, you're going to be picking out your fort. Now I know a lot of people are going to be picking out for aesthetics and whatnot, but genuinely speaking, I want you to pick one fort with your team and stick to it. Learn the layouts, understand how to defend it, because it is going to save you in the long run. Especially with mirror matchups, if you understand the fort that you're defending, you're going to understand the points that you can attack from. This is going to be important to understand how you're going to be able to win better games, you know what I'm saying, get more wins under your belt. So just pick one, and then after that, once you start to learn one, you can get to 2 to 3 and 4, and once you learn how to defend with those, then you'll have a good understanding of how that goes. I think this is a pretty cool feature, being able to pick your own fort and learn the ones that you want to master with your team, because it incorporates a lot more teamwork into the game. After that, you're going to be picking your wardens. Now honestly, there's not really too much of any broken wardens outside of, like, you know what I'm saying, you have your Scarlets and whatnot, your Maras, but honestly, I think they did a good fair balance of things. There could be some tweakage there, but they did do a good balance of the wardens. So pick whoever that comforts your playstyle the most, whether if you're an aggressive player, if you're a reserved kind of support player that lays out, you know what I'm saying, just some damage from afar, or anything that kind of calls to you in the sort of playstyle that you kind of can, you know, attribute to. Pick that said warden and stick with that person and learn them and just keep moving forward, you know. After that, you're going to be spawning into your actual fort when the game starts. Now I highly recommend that you're going to have 5 reinforced walls to start off with. I highly recommend that you reinforce all of your core walls around your core, your main essential core. Essentially, you want to do that because this is going to be the game ender core, you know, for the other team. You do not want the team to reverse sweep you, so get everybody on your team to reinforce these said walls. This is important, do not forget it. And with the remainder of walls that you probably have, just put them towards any other generator, but your main core is what you really want to reinforce. After that, it's going to have a pop-up and say to, you know, saying choose your loadout or whatnot, and you can kind of choose your loadout based on, like I said, your playstyle preference. You can choose from snipers to assault rifles and shotguns and SMGs. Essentially stuff that, you know, you feel like as if you could be comfortable with out in the field as you're going to be using these weapons. Then after that, you're going to want to talk to Trader Flynn up at the front of the Tour of the Fort, because this guy's a little bit important, because he's pretty much going to be setting up the pacing for you in your outwards loot what you would be going forward into your raid cycles. Yes, I'm going to be counting these as raid cycles, but you want to talk to him to see what he has in store for you and see what is going to be important for you to grab, which I'll talk about in the gearing up phase. He's going to be important for this because you're going to want to make sure that you keep eyes on what the builds you want to be going for, maybe the weapons that you want to buy. But for now, just keep that going and just, you know what I'm saying, just take, what you see from Trader Flynn. He is a very important vessel in the game. And yeah, we're going to be moving into the next phase. The gearing up phase is very important because you're going to want to loot as much as possible, and this means get as much Vesper / materials of what you need to get, and loot as many chests as you can actually find. During this phase, you're going to be out in the wild, and I know a lot of people say that the map is big, but honestly, I think it's a perfect blend of just what 3v3 is made of, as it incorporates a lot of strategic elements to work with your team, and which, like I said, when we get to the shield breaker part, you'll understand as you go. You're going to be mostly on your horse, and per upgrades of your saddles, or when you're going to be on your horse, you'll be moving so much more faster. And on top of that, there's these little gates, these little blue gates that you can go through that literally makes your horse go super fast. So imagine golden saddle with that. You're going to be moving all over the place. Your horse is going to be a good portion of your movement. It's a good investment tool, and honestly a little bit of HP on top of that. But you're going to want to be looting up as much resources and materials as well as chests, but you want to make sure that you're keeping at least 30 to 50 minimum when it comes to the Vesper. And inside of these little Vesper camps, you're going to see below it is going to be Trader Flynn. There's gonna be Trader Flynn underneath those camps, and you can simply buy what you need. And I say the things that you'll probably need is 100% a helmet, so it'll also be a blue helmet, the saddle, and possibly one blue weapon of your choosing that you feel like you need to have, like, that slight upgrade for. They don't do any damage buffs, but they do give you kind of reload buffs or faster ADS buffs and a better magazine. So you are going to need at least one, and if you're lucky enough to get two and loot up and whatnot, you can find even weapons out there in the field. But remember, it is a PvP zone, so wherever you loot up, you can honestly end up hearing, the enemies, and y'all can end up fighting. Now, fighting is not really important during this phase. It doesn't really do much, but it kind of slows down your looting phase, which means it'll stall you for the long run when we get to the raid phase, which is very, very, very important compared to where we're at right now. So make sure that you're looting up as much as possible. Inside of these little walls or whatnot, you're gonna find little rooms that are breakable, whether if you want to break it with your axe or your actual raid materials. Whenever you do that, you're gonna get even more loot inside of these areas that'll help boost you for your raid phase as we get into the later game phases. So loot up as much as you can, get as much Vesper as possible, and you can do the little mining mini game whenever you press melee at the exact same time whenever the indicator comes up, and when you do it 3 to 4 times, you'll get a flaming melee, which essentially means your next melee hit will be 1,000 damage, which means technically you could take that same melee and flaming hit someone in PvP and it'll one-shot them, and or you could take that same melee hit and just hit another Vesper and you'll get an instant hit. You don't have to worry about doing the mini game, you'll just get an instant hit. So just keep that in mind. Food for thought. Phase 3 is your shieldbreaker phase. Essentially, the shieldbreaker is going to spawn. You're going to see it on your mini map, and you're going to want to either do two things. It's either you set up around it, or you'll get ready to ambush and infiltrate in order for you to get the shieldbreaker. It's going to take some time to form, so you can't pick it up immediately. But when that time comes, when it does form, you're able to pick it up. Anybody that picks it up will be able to be seen on the mini map with a big circle. But another pro tip is whenever you're outside of the area, if you can't really see, if you're not near the shieldbreaker, you can actually see a little beam of light hovered by like a little diamond looking thing over their head to show their exact location in the sky where they're actually at. Unless they're inside of a cave, you will not be able to see that until they come out of that said cave. They will only appear on the minimap if they're inside of a cave. But when they're out, you'll actually see like a little glowing red and blue beam of light, basically like the mystery box from zombies. So during this phase, you're going to be fighting to get the shieldbreaker to the core. When you land the shieldbreaker inside of the core or the opposing player's core, you're going to be doing 35 damage to their core health of their base, which is a big lead, very big thing. If you do this, this is a big lead, okay? But more than likely times your games are going to get sweaty and it's going to become a stalemate. And when this happens, the game is going to go into overtime when that time runs out. When an overtime comes, your respawns are disabled. When your respawns are disabled, you then have to fight a 3v3, and if you team wipe, you get a free raid. No damage done to the core, you just get a free attacking raid. But if they wipe you, you have to defend that said attacking raid. If you're starting to understand it, you will get the flow of this as you keep playing. But if no team are able to put the shield breaker inside of the cores, then it'll stalemate after the overtime timer, and whoever has the shield breaker closest to the opponent's core will have a free raid, no damage dealt to their base. So just some food for thought, just a pro tip. It becomes a big old Tom and Jerry cat and mouse game that gets very intense and very frantic, especially if you're down on HP and you really need that shield breaker play. 100%. I see the vision with this, and it's really intense, and I actually like it's really fun. And it's the reason why I say 3v3 is perfect, because especially if you have stuff like Golden Saddle, you're going to be moving around the map super fast. And if you have Golden Saddle before anybody else, you're going to be fucking moving. So you can stall, you can do a lot of different plays. It becomes a very crazy game of capture the flag, you know what I'm saying? But yeah. Now the last phase is the attack/defense raid phase. So I'm going to be speaking for our attackers here. We're going to get to the defense stage, but our attackers here essentially has basically initiated the raid stage. So this means your raid tower is going to spawn. It's going to be this big old thing that completely drops your FPS. I know it kind of sucks, but it's going to spawn in, and then once it breaks the core shield, you will then be attacking the opponent's base. This is the meat and potatoes of the game. I love this part so much because you have to play as a team in order for you to win, and it feels really, really good whenever you do it. So essentially, as the attacking team, you have a limited amount of lives. When those lives are depleted, well, you failed the raid, in which you will take 30 damage to your core HP, which is a no-go. You want to make sure that you at least get at least one of the generators, A or B. Make sure you at least detonate one, and if you detonate A or B, if you detonate A and B, you win. But if you detonate one, that's completely fine. That means it's a good raid. But if you don't detonate any, that's whenever you take the damage. So you're going to be working your team to try to get into the enemy base, which means you're going to be using your raid tools like your rocket launcher, and or I be using the blast hammer. That thing is a lot of fun. You just break down walls and you're just easily in and whatnot. And you're going to be using that. This is where your materials come into play, because you're probably going to need to want to buy ammo for that said stuff, and or you're going to be wanting to get armor. So armor you're going to be finding out in the looting phase. So you essentially do not want to be buying armor when you're in the looting phase. You only want to buy armor when you're in the raid phase. Just another pro tip if you've gotten this fucking far. Seriously, it is super, super, super important. Do not buy any other thing other than the fact that you need to get ammo. I mean, not ammo, but like raid ammo and potentially wall repairs, which we'll get into, like the whole defense side. Your wall repairs and your reinforces and your armor. That's pretty much going to be your bread and butter for attacking defenses. But Mara, if you're playing Mara, she actually can set down a beacon with her ultimate that gives you an extra 3 lives for the attacking phase. So if you got a Mara, you want to absolutely be using that said beacon, whether it can be inside of their base or on the outside, to pretty much get your team inside of an area really quick. So when you activate a generator, you can only do one at a time. So whenever you completely do a generator, it'll detonate, and that'll be negative health for them. Now if you want to attack the core is a complete game winner, period, no matter what. Doesn't even need A or B. It does take the longest to detonate. It takes a full minute to detonate, so that's about three spawn cycles that you would have to survive. About 3 spawn cycles. So you have to work as a team very, very legitimately. But it is a free dub, pretty much. It's a good dub. It's an easy dub. I wouldn't say easy. It does take a little bit of, you know what I'm saying. But I would advise to not to fight the core unless it's not heavily guarded. Then you can attack the core if it's not guarded and whatnot, and you feel like you can get a setup in there. So the defending team has infinite lives essentially, and they'll be able to come in through spawn cycles. But the attacking team can only spawn either in the tower or on the sides of the tower, and you do not want to spawn inside the tower, because, or at least on the tower, and that is mostly because it is a very predictable spawn. Unless you're someone that is sniping, I highly advise do not spawn in the tower. Spawn on the sides. And honestly, if you have been looting around in the gearing up phase and you have zip lines can work as zipline spawns, in which you'll be able to spawn on the outer sides or on whatever side that you want on the zipline spawns, and you spawn in super quick. You come into the zip, you spawn in super quick, and it's very, you know what I'm saying, very fast. Essentially, you just zipline down as they spawn. On top of that, you obviously cannot zipline from their spawn, but only from the sides of the dome, from where the dome splitter sections are. Those are the only sides that you can really spawn the zipline spawns in. For my defensive side, essentially you will be able to open doors and windows in order to create choke points against the attacking phases. You can use this to your advantage to create, you know, little choke points, or to juke out, maneuver people that just, you know what I'm saying, either don't want to blast a wall open or just don't understand it. You can literally apex these doors and windows. So, and in the defending side, it is very important that you repair your walls that are broken down, because your walls will not be there whenever the raid ends and there's a stalemate, nothing, you know what I'm saying, nothing happened, and you either survived it or you got a good defense and whatnot. They just broke walls. You want to buy wall repairs, repair these walls, and anything near your core, you want to reinforce those said walls and move on and move forward. And this is why I said your Vesper, your materials are going to be like very, very important, because you'll be able to afford these things and help set up for defenses. And then after the defense cycle is open, is over and whatnot, the attacking phase is over, you're going to go right back into phase 2, which was essentially your gearing up phase. You'll do the same thing, just with better loot, better shield, and whatnot, better weapons. So, and that is the Highguard loop. This is the best part about the game that I feel like is very addicting, and something that they actually balance pretty well in the 3v3 format. You just have to sink your teeth into it a little bit and, you know, play it to understand. I feel like a lot of people nowadays just don't like to play new experiences that just, if it's not as easy as to click shoot and run click shoot, then they just don't care about it and they just write it off as bad, or, you know what I'm saying, stupid and whatnot. So I do think Highguard has a lot of potential, and I could definitely see this being a very competitive game. I generally like it. I can understand, like, my main issues are just the performance and the quality of life issues, as well as the accessibility issues, like not being able to hold the crouch, you know what I'm saying, people want to tap the aim and whatnot. There's a lot of quality of life things, especially for the console side too as well, that they need to actually improve and add on to the game. And generally, this is kind of like the part that kind of sucks the most, is because they actually have a good formula with this game. Everything is decently-ish balanced right now, but like I said, only time will tell. And I just think the game is at a good spot right now. We just need to have better performance. And once you guys actually learn this game, you'll understand the flow. It'll start to literally click in your. It's like trying a new hobby, and you're realizing this is a hobby you missed out on. But it's a very unique experience, and it's something that is a hybrid of different modes, and I'm betting a lot of people just simply just don't care to like it, because, you know, they're saying it's a copy of other games and whatnot. But anyways, I've been going on for too long. Thank you guys for watching. Also, I'm sorry for the background gameplay. I had the config up so that way I can get the extra boost to the FPS. I was also streaming, so I didn't really get as much FPS as that. But if you guys want the link to the config, I'll have it in the description. It's going to be towards the tweet to Brusky. He's going to have the config there. And you can also change the FOV as well in one of the little config INI sections. But if you want an actual other video, a quick video on that, just let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, peace.